Back for another one of our regular conversations with 9 News Director of Reporting Chris Vanderveen, who heads up our COVID coverage. You were hopeful a week or two ago that we might have seen the crest of Colorado's latest peak. Not quite.
It's not happening, and I wish I was. I knew I was being a little optimistic at that point. And so you start to see those numbers, and you look for the bend in the curve. You start to see that type of action. What you now start to see is that it's not going up fast. Like, there's plenty of other states that are doing plenty worse than Colorado right now, but we're still kind of inching up. We're around that 1,200 per day in the 7-day average. That's a little bit more than we were 2 weeks ago when we were at 1,000. Now, it's not going up like it's going up in some regions around the country, but it's still going up. So it tells me right now, even though I like to say we're at that crest, it doesn't seem as if we're at that crest right now. And
it should go without saying, vast majority of the people in Colorado's hospitals with COVID-19 are folks who are unvaccinated, as they are throughout the country.
Yeah, and when you talk about ICUs, it's pretty much exclusively all unvaccinated.
Schools are starting up again. What are you watching for?
I think you're really looking for that age range where we know that kids are unvaccinated. We're talking about under 12 years old. We're talking about 6th grade and younger. You're looking for any signs that we're going to start to see a bump in that age range of cases, because this is going to be challenging. This is going to be very challenging for schools. And I don't know if we're fully prepared about how challenging it's going to be. This isn't just a mask issue. It's about keeping kids in school, and it's also about keeping teachers in school where you can function and keeping everybody inside the school. Now, we all know the goal is to keep kids inside, in-person learning. And that sounds great. We all want that. But when it comes to practical standpoint, it becomes much more challenging. And you're going to hear more schools start to have challenges with staffing and with just enough kids coming to school. Expect to hear that over the next couple of weeks. Hopefully it doesn't get to a point where it becomes massively disruptive, but it's going to be disruptive.
Speaking of disruption, we know that the public flashpoint over COVID restrictions now is moving from employer and city-state mandates to the school districts, where the school districts are under a ton of parental pressure. You've got local politicians like in Douglas County openly leaning on the school district to go with their judgment over that of health officials.
It's a fascinating development. It really sort of goes along that line with all politics is local. All of COVID now is going to be very much a local issue. You're going to see a lot of these smaller protests, maybe even could become bigger protests that really sort of concentrate on the county level, on the school district level, and it's going to put, like it has already in Douglas County, the county at odds with the school district and making those decisions. And when people at home, when parents see division within the county and the school district, they're going to seize on that. And I think we're expecting to see a fairly large protest in Douglas County on Monday. There's a reason for that, because they're not seeing everybody work together. It's different if the county and the school board are on the same level, but when they're different, they say, we've got room to sort of move in, and I think that's what you're seeing right now.
One thing that we've talked about at a couple of stages through the pandemic is not resting on our laurels when we see other states have big surges that we don't have, because we also have a decent percentage of the population that's unvaccinated, and without vaccines, they will get COVID at some point. So now we look to the fall, a timeline that's very quickly approaching.
I think you sort of look at a state right now where there's a lot of effort and concentration on what's going on in the South right now, deservedly so. The rates are very, very high. Florida, Mississippi, Alabama are all seeing lots of problems in those states. But what's caught my attention over the last week and a half is states like Washington and Oregon that have started to go up at a level where it's really started to have an impact in their hospitalizations. Here in Colorado, we've been fortunate. We haven't seen that increase in cases and hospitalizations, but that in no means that we're safe. And if you go with the idea where we were really bad last year, it was November and December of last year. So if you start thinking about the possibility that if we see another spike, our bad spike could very much be in that November, December time frame. And we're sort of getting lulled into this idea that we're okay. And if we learn anything from the pandemic, the moment you think you're okay is the moment that the pandemic starts to creep back. We've seen it time and time again, and I would expect to see that here in Colorado as well.
And when we talk about people making decisions, we know that people every day are being persuaded to take the vaccine in some number. And then you hear those heartbreaking stories of people in hospitals, desperately ill, asking for the vaccine as if they're saying, okay, finally, I'll get it. And a nurse has to explain it to them.
You don't take the vaccine to weather the size of increase in case increases, the peak that you're seeing right now. You're taking the vaccine to sort of weather the next peak. And I think that's something that's sort of critical for people in Colorado to understand, is that just because we're okay right now, we're not seeing that sort of, that you're seeing in the South. A lot of people are getting vaccinated because they now know of somebody who's gotten sick, maybe ended up in the hospital. That's a great reason for many big people to become vaccinated. The problem is that if you get the vaccine now, it's not for today, it's not for tomorrow, it's not for next week, it's not for 2 weeks, it's for 6 weeks from now. And by then, the peak that you're in right then is over. And so the problem is the vaccination push, and this is why you're seeing cities like Denver and other places in Colorado saying, we need to vaccinate more. We're slightly at the level, or basically at the level that Oregon is right now. And Oregon's seeing a very large increase in cases. We're going to see something like that here in Colorado. It's almost assured. So the question is, when's the best time to get vaccinated? It's right now.
All right, Chris Vanderveen, thank you.
You bet.